We are about to start this seminar, CPEC 2015-2019, Achievements, Challenges, and the Way Forward. For a formal start, I would request for the recitation of Holy Quran, Mr. Abdul Jalil.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو عالم الغيب والشهادة هو الرحمن الرحيم هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الملك القدوس السلام المؤمن المهيمن العزيز الجبار المتكبر سبحان الله عما يشركون هو الله الخالق البارئ المصور له الأسماء الحسنى يسبح له ما في السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم صدق الله العظيم.
Jazakallah. Now I would request all the audience, please stand up for the national anthem. Thank you. At CPEC Economic Forum and all events, we have one more tradition to start the event with the CPEC song.
है
completed CPEC events as well. So, being a chief host, I would like to introduce myself and give a few welcome words. My name is Arshad Qaim Khani. I am the Executive Chairman for the CPEC Economic Forum. CPEC Economic Forum is a public-private partnership on the similar lines as what Economic Forum or our Asia Forum, with a very humble start. We are here to promote the engagement between the two sides, B2B, dialogue, and we are beyond the business activities. This is why we claim ourselves as the Economic Forum. We wish to promote besides the business and economic growth, the social development side, policy research, and informed decision making, and last but not the least, is values integration, which plays a vital role in the progress of our friends China. Our slogan is connecting people with peace, progress, and prosperity. As we believe there is no prosperity without progress, and there is no progress without peace, and there is no peace without involving people. As I said, today's CPEC's 4th anniversary, when President Xi and our ex-Premier Nawaz Sharif has opened, and now our current Prime Minister Imran Khan is taking it to the next level. So we wish to see in this forum what are the achievements we got during the last 4 years, what are the challenges we are facing, and what is the way forward. I see CPEC in a little different angle. Maybe all of you have a different views about this. I believe CPEC is not an ordinary collaboration between two countries, but it's Pakistan and China. I see personally myself, the CPEC is Pakistan's 3rd national project. When I say national project, it means beyond political lines, beyond every kind of lines. 2 national projects we already accomplished. The first one was the nuclearization of Pakistan. When we won United Nations, we achieved our objective. And second one, the unprecedented victory in war against terrorism in Pakistan. Now, alhamdulillah, socially, from defense point of view, we are much better off. Now, the only side is economic side, which we need to achieve through this CPEC project. We need to take CPEC as a national project, and we should take it further levels. I would like to thank our collaboration organizations, Institute of Policy Studies, Islamabad, which is a very prestigious institution of not only for Islamabad but across Pakistan. They are working in close collaboration with us on the CPEC subject, and Pakistan Institute of Management, which has a flagship organization in Pakistan's training and development domain. And we are also thankful for all their support, Board of Investment, Government of Pakistan. And before I move further to conclude my welcome words, I was just telling His Excellency Ambassador Yao Jing that when Zulfikar Bhutto has started this relationship between Pakistan and China, we used to have in our childhood and student life that is higher than Himalayas and deeper than seas. And now recently when the CPEC was opened, President Xi come up with his idea, we are like iron brothers. Now with your permission and with my all fellow panelists' permission, I would like to suggest one more slogan from Pakistani nation, that we are 2 nations but 1 team. And we should behave like a good team, and while keeping our identity as our nation. I am sure not only the young generation but also our cricketing Prime Minister would like this slogan. So, thank you very much. Now I would like to request our Mr. Hamid Mirza Hamid Hasan, is a senior government official, former Federal Secretary, National Academic Council of IPS being headed by him. He is supervising the water and development and energy domain of the IPS, and otherwise is a very reputed dignity. I would request him to say some opening words for opening this forum. Mr. Mirza Hamid.
As all of us know, CPEC is a very important project, I would call it a program or a project for Pakistan, and as well as China. This is something that binds our two nations much more strongly and which has brought us further together. We have always had good and strong relationships, but this particular program has given a new impetus to our collaboration and cooperation. In the discourse taking place, which has taken place during the last 5 years in the academic spheres, think tanks, research centers, and different mediums of mass communication in Pakistan, if we analyze it statistically, we would see that the topic of CPEC, including the opportunities and challenges associated with it, will surely be somewhere near the top of the list. It has been discussed in our electronic media, print media, think tanks, institutes, and social media as well. Now, with CPEC being one of the most significant initiatives of the recent past in the sphere of bilateral relations between Pakistan and China, it is natural for various institutions as well as people of Pakistan to evince a keen interest in the project as they are doing. The interest in CPEC is, however, not confined to Pakistan or China alone. In view of the far-reaching implications of this important initiative, it is not possible for regional as well as global players and observers not to take interest in CPEC, its backdrop, and the possibilities and opportunities brought forth with it. The reason is simple. CPEC not only by itself, but also for the sake of forming a component of the Belt and Road Initiative, serves as a backbone to bring about a change in the whole region, rather than only in the bilateral relations of the two countries. And this is precisely why it has been called a game changer. The first impression that is created in the minds when the term game changer is used in the context of international relations, whether cited openly or not, is that there will be a visible change in the prevalent order of international relations, impacting on political, economic, and strategic equations. Seen in the backdrop of an increasingly interconnected world, the impact of any such changes could certainly go beyond the region. It is thus not surprising for those powers whose preponderance is likely to be affected by this initiative to join hands against it, considering it to be a threat to their own interests and benefits. Looking at the past 5 years of CPEC, in this overall context, it is not strange to observe several attempts being made to disrupt and detract CPEC, also to disturb the air of trust that exists between, from the top to the topmost layers, echelons, to the grassroots level between Pakistan and China. Consequently, in spite of making significant progress in a number of projects on ground, there have been attempts to vitiate this atmosphere of mutual trust by creating doubts about their efficacy and benefits. There are many reasons behind it, apart from external factors, internal issues including but not limited to differences in governance and working styles, the planning and priorities over different projects, shaping of the terms of reference, the real or perceived gaps in the context of progress in the projects, as well as the variance in views of different political players are some of the distracting factors. While this is not unusual and probably cannot be totally eliminated, this makes the disruptive task of the external players easier. So we have to guard against this tendency and take corrective measures. We have to keep it in mind that the most vital part of any strategy for making the best use of the opportunities offered by CPEC and defeat such pressures, including the external factors, would be to maintain, protect, and further strengthen the mutual trust, which essentially has provided a really strong foundation for CPEC. At the same time, we also have to be conscious of the fact that maintaining the mutual trust is not a matter of one-time effort. It is an ongoing exercise which requires constant nurturing. Only real on-ground progress and adhering to the strategy of a win-win situation, which is the cornerstone of CPEC and Belt and Road Initiative, would work as a guarantee for this continued trust, mutual trust and continuity of common interests. We know that the concept of win-win strategy is not limited to one single project that China has initiated. It is rather connected to the larger and even more important concept of community of shared interests. The concept has implications not only for the infrastructure projects, but for the global governance system as well. And CPEC and BRI, when termed as a game changer, implied seeking a big change within the mindset with which the world is being governed or carried forward, and not that a few nations or regions, but all should be able to share the benefits of the progress. That development should be inclusive to all, and that mutual cooperation and sharing should remain the focus instead of the element of domination, control and conflict. This would be a paradigm shift that CPEC and BRI are aimed at in the development of connectivity of the region and the world, and there is expected to be a global paradigm shift in the development process and the interrelationship of nations and regions. Hence, CPEC is a symbol of new paradigm of cooperation and sharing within the relations of the two countries as well as the various regions in which these initiatives will work together. Indeed, it's a big challenge for both the countries to constantly watch this spirit and safeguard this paradigm in their bilateral dealings at all levels, including government institutions and public as well as businesses. With that, I would close my remarks. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mirza Hamid Hasan Sahab. He was giving the preamble for our future discussion. Now I would like to request all the panelists to give a very brief opening remark from 1.5 to 2 minutes duration. Thereafter, we will have a question and answer session before I bother our chief guest, Mr. Yao Jing, for his keynote address. I would like to request General Lodhi Sahab, our former Defense Secretary I'm saying, in US terminology, Wazir Difa. So he would share with us about achievements, challenges, and the way forward.
Thank you very much, sir, Your Excellency, Chinese Ambassador, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. I will just make two short comments and then we can cover the things in question and answer session. The first is that CPEC, being a part of BRI, is a different philosophy altogether. This was covered by Mirza Sahab also. The philosophy of shared prosperity and extended neighborhood, which is Confucius, thing, and it is pitted against the age-old philosophy which we are used to, and that is of course the Machiavellian setup of the things, and what Hans Margenso has said, you must have read it, pursuing the cool interests of nations. So you might find some difference, as this philosophy, if it expands, and hopefully it will expand, you will find a very profound difference in overall how the world is run. The politics, maybe you stop hearing too much about the type of democracy which is going on, and you come up with some other democracy or something. I'm just imagining. So this is one point which I wanted to make, that this is a new philosophy, and it is not just a project or part of a CPEC being a part of just a project. The other thing, don't be under any illusion that it will not be resisted. It will be resisted tooth and nail by the existing world order. It will be resisted economically, it will be resisted politically, diplomatically, and if time comes, even militarily. And whatever we are facing today, may I share this with my honorable Chief Guest Excellency. Whatever Pakistan is facing today, a part of it is also because of CPEC. So if at all there is a hard time on us, you'll have to support us. You have no other option. So thank you very much. I thought I made these 2 points and later on we can.
Thank you very much. I think he was crystal clear. So notice about crystal clear in his approach and in his expression. Now I would like to request Ambassador Tajammul Sir to share his views. A very brief opening remark, please.
Thank you, Chair. The topic of today is CPEC, 4 years of achievement, challenges, and the way forward. CPEC is not a 4 years old story. It in fact started way back. If I just peep into the thinking of our great leaders in Pakistan and China, starting from Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah, when in October 1947 he gave an interview to the American magazine The Time, which was published in January 1948, where he very appropriately summed up the future of Pakistan, that Pakistan is the pivot and having all frontiers around, and the future of Pakistan will revolve around this pivot, and the future of Pakistan is connected to this region, Pakistan. And then, of course, subsequently, all great leaders, starting from Mao Zedong, Deng Xiaoping, and in the present century, Xi Jinping, and our great leaders were talking about conceiving the idea of CPEC, which realized even much before 2015, and now has been not only conceptualized but institutionalized. Let me also put it across in very clear terms, taking words from Senator Mushahid Hussain Sayyid, that CPEC is China's vote of confidence in Pakistan. Let me also quote the golden words of my Chinese ambassador friend, His Excellency Yao Jing, when only a couple of days before he said that China has a blind confidence in Pakistan. So this is what the leadership of the two countries is thinking at the highest pedestal. G to G context of CPEC is very strong, robust, dynamic, forthcoming, having multiple layers. Now we are talking about B2B involvement and engagement in this mega CPEC coupled with Belt and Road Initiative. Not only that, then of course, each project, whether this is an economic, cultural, whatever you think under the sky, is only viable, feasible, doable, manageable, workable, deliverable if it really reaches to the people of that country, whether this is China, Pakistan, or around 70 countries in Belt and Road Initiative. And I can only simply say, on the one hand, CPEC epitomizes long history of Pakistan-China relationship, friction-free, smooth, on the even keel, and then uplifting this relationship into all-weather friendship and strategic partnership, which is now coming very openly. And then, of course, connecting this CPEC with BRI will be, again, let me take the words from one of my senior colleagues, Sardar Masood Khan, currently President of Azad Jammu and Kashmir and formerly my colleague in Beijing, who said CPEC and BRI are in fact changing the economic and strategic landscape of the entire world. If I start counting the benefits which we have achieved in the last 4 years, these are numerous. And I can safely say that out of these 6 corridors which are connected with Belt and Road Initiative, CPEC is the fastest developing and achieving progress. And then the way Belt and Road Initiative is carried out is also mind-boggling. 70 countries, only a week ago, Italy, France and Germany and the European Union, they were giving vote of confidence in Belt and Road Initiative. No one is a kid and no one is kidding. This is the hard reality emerging in front of our eyes, like poet philosopher Dr. Muhammad Allama Iqbal said, "Mashriq se ubharte hue suraj ko zara dekh." And we are watching that rising sun from the east. Out of almost 60 plus projects of CPEC, more than 20 have already been realized. Early harvest projects, mostly energy, which covers $35 billion investment from China, and infrastructure related projects about $27 billion, making it altogether a package of $62 billion, which is now being projected in the world going to be by 2030 perhaps another model of economic engagement in the form of $150 billion. Like Belt and Road Initiative right now is $1.4 trillion package. It is going to be much beyond 20 plus trillion by 2049 or 2050. Our achievements so far in CPEC are quite commendable. Our challenges are enormous, whether these are internal domestic problems, challenges being faced, which of course for me being a Pakistani should be much more important to be taken care of. The domestic front, our internal problems, where there are a host of, we need political stability, economic stability, and also confidence building among the people of Pakistan. Second, of course, is what is happening in our region and beyond, reconfiguration of alliances which is taking place, where we should align ourselves with the realities around us, and we must look on that. Then, of course, our eastern neighbor, whatever we are getting from our eastern neighbor in the form of hybrid warfare, what is happening beyond our region, what is happening in Europe, and what is happening under the far-right populist approach being taken by not only the United States of America, but a number of other countries. We should have a very clear direction, and the way forward is CPEC and BRI should be starting with the governments, going to private sector, B2B, and then focusing 100% on the peace, prosperity, well-being, and good life of the people of this region. CPEC and Belt and Road Initiative in itself covers about 4.5 billion population of the world. If the trickle-down impact is strong and people are benefiting, CPEC and BRI will be not only the rising stars, but of course taking the world ahead. We should remain vigilant to face challenges which are multiple, multidimensional, and we should not lose heart, but we should also be vigilant internally and externally. And I think rest of the things we can cover in our interactive question and answer session. Thank you so very much for your intelligence and patience.
Thank you very much. Tajammul Sahib very well summarized the achievements we had, and he painted a very realistic yet beautiful picture in front of us. Now, due to some pressing compulsions of engagement with the Honorable Chief Guest, so I would like to request him to give his keynote address for the forum. Ambassador Mr. Yao Jing.
you have a national book fair, right? I think that our embassy has a store over here. And your president right now has arrived to witness. I was supposed to accompany him. I said I had to regret it. I think time right now. This is a big topic. Takes longer time. So I just elaborate. First of all, thank you for the CPEC Economic Forum, Mr. Qaim Khani, for organizing such a kind of session. And also thanks IPS for your help and also assistance in organizing this afternoon's event. And of course, many thanks for these distinguished panelists to share with me, with us, your very valuable views. This the 2015 to 2019 CPEC. If you allow, I made a little correction. And to our understanding, the CPEC conception started 2013. That is also in May, when the Chinese, at that time, new Prime Minister, Mr. Li Keqiang, visited Pakistan. We started this discussion about the CPEC. So why today is important? Why it's 4 years? Thank you. It's 4 years. Because exactly about on the 20th of April 2015, the Chinese President Xi Jinping paid his state visit to Pakistan. And during that visit, the framework, the whole plan was finalized after consultation, and a lot of projects were initiated about 4 years ago. So that I think at this time, when we look back at these 4 years achievements and trying to understand the challenges and trying to also foresee the way forward, I think this is exactly the time. This is exactly the job we have to do. And another significance is that next week, Prime Minister Imran Khan is going to China for the second Belt and Road Summit or Forum. And this is the second forum, but it is also, we are talking about the same themes, topics, challenges, achievements, and the way forward. So today's discussion, today's forum is extremely helpful and useful for me to have a better understanding and collecting your views about this. Basically, it's my problem. My voice has machines are always functioning properly. Either I'm too short or I'm too long. Anyway, it's fine. Thank you. So let me talk about, I totally agree with Mr. Hamid Hasan and General Lodhi, and of course Ambassador Tajammul Altaf for your comments, and I appreciate your views. I'm also trying to understand the CPEC. Before I came to Pakistan. I came to Pakistan in late 2017, and I think that was a very interesting timing. The CPEC was, I think, running in a very high profile. A lot of projects are in the major prime time of construction, and there was a lot of suspicions, criticisms, and different views about the CPEC, not only from the local media, but also from the international media. There are also a lot of expectations from the different really short. Thank you. So that, and after that, then we had, I was here in 2018 last year, and I had witnessed the election here, and we had a new government since last August until now, almost another 8 months. The new government. We are trying our best to connect with the Pakistan new government, and I think right now, generally, I should say things is moving quite smoothly. Then what has been achieved for the past 4 or 5 years of CPEC? If I'm allowed, I would like to say that several points. First, this is a new platform for China and Pakistan to have a kind of closer cooperation. This CPEC, in fact, as far as Chinese side is concerned, we have, through this CPEC, organized, mobilized, or trying to provide resources for economic cooperation with Pakistan in this, through this channel, through this platform. So you can see that a lot of ministries in China, we have at least 6 joint working groups. Our Ministry of Finance, our Ministry of Planning and Development, our Ministry of Transportation, our Ministry of Agriculture. So previously, they are collaborating with Pakistan's counterparts through individual ways. But right now, with a kind of a streamlined or structured channel, that we are channeling these kind of resources in a more organized way and maybe more efficient way. Second, I should say this is a new phenomenon of our partnership. Yes, I said that previously in 1960s, our friendship was described higher than Himalayas and deeper than the seas. Later on, sweeter than honey. And right now, iron brothers. Yes, stronger than steel. There's lots of metaphors. But the real, I think, that is a new phenomenon, is a new level of mutual trust and mutual cooperation. CPEC is a new project under the Belt and Road Initiative. And under the Belt and Road Initiative, we have 6 corridors. And the CPEC is the only one, first, only bilateral one. Other corridors are all multilateral, all regional. Second, this is only, I should say, focused, based on a very concrete design with project, with a mid and long-term plan, with a mechanism that is a joint economic or joint coordinating committee between the 2 ministries of planning. They have annual meetings. And we also with a lot of, I should say, a lot of support from both sides, from the very beginning. So I think that this is a new level or new phenomenon of our partnership. But thirdly, I think is a new stage of our traditional friendship. A vote of confidence from the Chinese side on Pakistan. I say that our confidence on Pakistan need no voting. It's a kind of given confidence, blind confidence. Because the history, this year is our 70th anniversary of the People's Republic of China. We are also trying to summarize our experience in diplomacy, in foreign affairs. And if you look at China's relations with all the other countries, our relations with Pakistan is very exceptional. From at the 1950s, we were enemies, we were rivals. 1960s, 70s and 80s, right now we are the Iron Brothers. So that this is a very valuable asset for China's foreign policy. And this also since China initiated this Belt and Road Initiative, naturally Pakistan came to the focus of our decision makers as well as our. So this is, I think, something we have achieved. The final and more fundamentally, I think we have achieved a connection, a connectivity of our priority and the vision. CPEC basically is an economic project. It's a kind of a commercial project, and it's based on the economic projects. So this, why we put this CPEC in such a kind of prior position, because I believe in 2013 or 2015, after consultations between the two governments, our two leaderships, our two governments believe economic development, social progress, I understand, is the major focus, is the major vision for our two. Maybe we have other challenges like maybe security challenges, geopolitical challenges. Maybe we do have other challenges like the social sectors or others. But economic development is the key for our two countries, is the major area for our cooperation. I think this is our connectivity of the concepts, of the perception. We put economic development as a priority. So this is another fundamental achievement. But when we are talking about the current physical state of the CPEC, then we come to some kind of figures, like right now in totally we have started 22 projects, half. 11 have been finished, 11 are still ongoing. And there are some estimation of the possible investment. Totally we have 46 billion or 62 billion, which I think this is our own estimation. There's nothing concrete. Exact number of the CPEC project right now, from our side, $19 billion, $19 billion. From your side, around $7 billion Pakistani. So this is the whole size, $26 billion. But this because there's a lot of suspicion of your national debt, that we are increasing your burden, something like. I can also then share with you among this, within this $19 billion, $13 billion are commercial. They come from banks and they were borrowed by the local economic identities, like our major cost for these power plants. Each we have 3 major power plants: Sahiwal, Qasim Port, and Hub. Each one costs about $2 billion. This total is $6 billion. The $6 billion were borrowed by the Chinese company, developers, investors. They borrowed from the Chinese commercial banks, and they put the money in Pakistan, and they are running these. They are running these power plants and sell this electricity to your national grid. According to the count, they are benefiting, but because of the triangle debt, or that the payment is so much delayed, they are losing. But I think we will keep working on that. So this is the major fund. Another $6 billion, that is from our government loans. And even that, I shall share with you that these government loans, but sir, you know, your organization previously also had a lot of Chinese loans. The grace period at least is 5 years. The repayment period is more than 25 years. So the immediate future, in the next 7 years, we are not having any penny of debt from your side. And the repayment will start, I think, around 2024 or 2025. But this is, we believe, when that CPEC really functioning, when the economic of Pakistan will finally come out of this hard time and moving in a regular, in a normal way, by 2024 or 2025, this $6 billion, your government loans or debts won't be a bigger burden for you. So this is the current. But this is also achievement. By this $19 billion, we have increased, doubled your power generation. Right now there's no more load shedding under this. We also have, according to our estimation, that your GDP growth has been increased by at least 1%. And also at least 700,000 employment, direct employment has been created. And there are, of course, there are some. So this is physical achievements. In the pipeline, we do have another 21 projects, including some major projects like the main railway, main line 1, which we have already finalized now. They are ML1, and there are some others like Gwadar Airport, this kind of things. This 21, we are discussing with your government that we will have to have a kind of prioritized that which one we should go first. And I can say that during the next visit by the Prime Minister, we are going to finalize this ML1 railway upgradation. So this is the concrete part and achievements. But I think that for Chinese side, we pay more attention to the first side. That is our connectivity of our strategy, connectivity of our concept for the development and the enhancement of our bilateral relations and partners. What kind of challenges? A lot of challenges. General Lodhi, you mentioned several kind of challenges. I think it is true. Belt and Road Initiative is a brand new idea, a brand new initiative. It is based on China's traditional philosophy. That is, we have to share our prosperity. I have to share with our treasures with other people. Because only you, a single person, could not get prosperous without a prosperous environment. This is 500 years ago, our philosopher Confucius told us. This is also a reality, because after 40 years opening up and reform, China's economy was so connected with the world. We are so much connected with this globalization. China's economy, we could not sustain it in a high-speed growth without a neighborhood of relatively prosperity and more connectivity. For example, previously, China was called World Factory. Basically, we are manufacturers. We import materials, we process it and export it. But this is not sustainable anyway, because the high technology, because of the other emerging markets, they are all also adopted this. So right now, China has to find we call it higher quality economic structure. What kind of higher quality structure? That is, we put innovation as the leading jobs, technology as the major area of future development. Then, after 40 years accumulation, we do have surplus capital. We do have surplus capacity of manufacturing, but our labors are more and more costly. That our cost for the domestic manufacturing is also more and more costly. However, when we look at this Belt and Road Initiative areas, our partners, for example, Central Asia, Southeast Asia, South Asia, and West Asia, Africa, these countries are relatively, they are in the stage of building infrastructure, of building their manufacturing or economic systems. So that is the reason that this Belt and Road Initiative is first started with the infrastructure connectivity, because we are in a position to share with our resources to enhance infrastructure. Then there are some kind of so-called colonization imperialism, that China is using capitals that are trying to control this country, this position, this port, something like that. I think it is natural that if you look at this kind of project initiative, if you analyze it or trying to understand it through a kind of traditional Western series, realism or something like that, then it is an expansion of China's influence. But for China, we are trying very hard to advocate that it is a totally different pattern, a different paradigm. We are trying first. China is very firm on our own road to the future. The characterization is peaceful development. Peaceful development is China's fundamental state policy for the future, based on our own. We are not going to, and we are not going to be exclusive. Second, that we are combining this Belt and Road Initiative with a new advocacy of foreign policy. We call it new type of state-to-state relations. This new type of state-to-state relations will be featured for three principles: mutual respect, and just based on justice and fairness. And thirdly is win-win cooperation. And the final purpose, as our president said, is that trying to build a community of shared future, shared destiny, that we take all the partners as a community. If China wants to be better off, then you must be better off. If you cannot be in a better position, China's future will be also damaged. So this is what we are trying to do. However, this world, this region, or everywhere else, I think they are still dominated by the traditional mindset. We call sometimes, when we were a little upset, we call it Cold War mindset. But still, because so I think that we are trying to communicate. So why we are having this Belt and Road Initiative Forum? For example, during the forthcoming forum, totally 40 countries send their heads of the states or heads of the governments, including Prime Minister Imran Khan. So Pakistan is totally there are 40. Even like major European countries like the UK, France, Spain, Italy are sending their high-level delegations. United States, although they say that they are not in favor of this, but there are huge delegation of businessmen, a huge delegation of local governors will be in the forum. So sometimes we want to see that this Belt and Road Initiative, if you look at through the economic, commercial point of view, it could be a public good. This is, I think, the challenge in the mutual, some kind of understanding of the Belt and Road Initiative and the CPEC in particular. CPEC, there are other some challenges. I think it's quite often or frequent in Pakistan. For example, I don't know any friends who come from Balochistan. I also was reading some newspapers like the Balochistan province. We don't have only how much certain share, 3%, 6%, 9% share of the CPEC project or other provinces. They say no, we don't have enough projects or enough investment or this kind of that. I think that for the past 4 or 5 years conduction of the CPEC, this CPEC is still a baby. It takes a long time. It is more efforts to improve it, to make it perfect. Although this perfection could be a long term. But the fundamental purpose of the CPEC is that if we have a project, for example in Gwadar, then we make Gwadar at least more prosperous. If we have a project in Tar, in Sindh, then we make turn these areas a little more prosperous. So I hope that give us some time, give us some more, I should say, more space to improve the design in this. This is one. Another, for example, there are some kind of concern about the CPEC, and you also mentioned right now there are only the mega projects. Yeah, but we do have some small projects. If you like small projects, I can give more. For example, the first project of the CPEC, which was completed in 2015, that was a very small junior school in Gawada, a pure school. 150 students, we donated this school. But right now it has been expanded with more than 500 students in it. We have, for example, vocational training centers both in Quetta and in Lahore. These are that, but they are not enough. They are not enough. Second, for example, that there are other concerns like not enough participation of the private sector, local companies, your business community, not enough participation of the cultural sector, of the social sector. So this is true because the G2G, the first stage of the CPEC, we are basically working on the G2G. We're working on the government-to-government cooperation. And like this KKH upgradation, this M5, Motorway 5, number 5, these other things. But they are the initial stage. They are the beginning stage. We want to, in fact, in 2013, when we were talking about CPEC, I checked the minutes of between the two leaders when we were talked. CPEC, basically, they want, it's very simple, that please, China should have more economic input, investment in Pakistan. So 2013, it was the purpose, that CPEC can get more economic investment, that's all. 2015, when this whole blueprint, general framework was worked out, then you can see there are a long list of the projects, including a lot of. But right now, the new stage, I think the way forward. Right now, what is the way forward? After consultation with your current government, I think that first, both sides agreed or at least understand this CPEC or Belt and Road Initiative is good for each other. Still, we believe that this is the workable, feasible, and helpful project. Like your Prime Minister Imran Khan, I think last week, he especially met with 15 Chinese companies. Most of them were engaged in the CPEC project. People, this is your top priority, the current government top priority. This is the most important project that the government will work upon. So I think that is the connectivity of this, the continuancy. This is the most important. Second, that the new government, naturally, you have the new government of Pakistan has its own new priorities, new visions. So China, the fundamental principle of the CPEC or the Belt and Road Initiative, that we have to consult with you, connect with you. So after consultation with the new government, after discussion with the new government, we established two more major areas of the next stage. One, the industry cooperation. Second is the social sector cooperation. On the meanwhile, all the previous projects, these 22 projects, we are keep them moving. We are make them successful. But the new areas, for example, Imran Khan is going to China. Right now we are finalizing the deliverables or the outcome. Basically, we are all working on several important agreements. The first one is industry cooperation. That is where two governments will encourage the investment. This investment is not from our government, is from our private sector, FDI, to establish their manufacturing or processing zones here. So first is industry cooperation. Second, agricultural cooperation. Because agriculture, we have a lot of area to improve, and China basically is an agricultural. Our economic development started from agricultural sector, so we are going to start this. Third one is the second stage, we call the upgradation of the FTA, second stage of the FTA. Why we are so keen? Because this FTA, right now we are giving almost 90% of zero tariff share of our market. And this FTA can mobilize the manufacturing shift from China to Pakistan. For example, textile, we are going to give zero tariff to all the textile products from Pakistan. Then your relative comparative advantages in labor cost, in your raw materials will be, I think, will be utilized. In fact, right now, many Chinese investors have heard about this news. In China, we haven't disclosed that we have finalized this, but your Minister of Commerce has already disclosed it. So it is a lot of Chinese businessmen, they're trying to get this tariff list to see that they want to shift their garment factories. There are at least 6 garment factories or investors already trying to set up their facilities in Lahore and Islamabad. This is another very important cooperation agreement is the social sector. Social sector that we have finalized 6 areas of cooperation. Education, health, water and irrigation, agriculture. But this agriculture is not industry cooperation. This agriculture basically is technology and equipment sharing. Poverty elevation. We are going to choose, I think, 6 villages in Pakistan, trying to as an examples of poverty elevation. We will send our experts to see how can we upgrade their I don't know, whatever structures possible, and human resources development. Social sector, then we need public input. We need public expenses. So our government has decided to give about $1 billion in the next 3 years for the social sector upgradation. But of course, your local government, your divisions, districts, they will also come forward and we will jointly do these things. So that will be the next 2 areas which we will pay more attention and resources. The first sector, industry cooperation, basically, as you said, is B2B. The second area I would like to say is that P2P, people to people, people to people, or people to people. So this is a B2B then, because I think your economy, Pakistan's economy is a little different as far as the structure is concerned. Your economy, your strength of the economy lies with the private sector. So only by engaging the private sector, only by empowering your private sector, I think Pakistan's economy. China might be is almost half-half. Half were controlled by our state-owned company, half were controlled by private sector. But yours is mostly that. So this B2B, we were engaging more. So you can see that right now, there are a lot of more, we call it trade and investment delegations are coming. But these B2B issues, I also would like to seek your views, because if you want to promote B2B cooperation, but you only adopt G2G approaches, it won't help. Because I have some money, I want to invest, but I'm not necessarily investing in Pakistan. I may choose other countries. Why do I have to? They may not so much politically driven. So that I told that your government that the pro-investment, pro-business, this ease of doing business is very important. And you also mentioned political stability, security, this kind of facility for the locals. All these are very important. So B2B, next stage of the CPEC is need a real kind of very careful and very, I should say, delicate design and work. Because all this investment, we have to encourage. We cannot instruct them. We cannot order them. We have to encourage. But the government, what government can do from our side, we can give them these policy incentives. If you go to Pakistan, you have this second phase of FTA, so you can benefit this zero term. If you go to Pakistan for investment, if you need some kind of green channels or facility, our government will give to you. But from your government, from your end, I think your government has also been more and more aware of this. For example, you have this ease of doing business. You have this open policy by easier visa. Your BOI has already established a 10-person unit only looking after the investment from China. So they are going to, even your FBR nominated a special official dealing with all the tariff or revenue issues with Chinese companies. Because the FDI from China is still the major source of your current investment. So I think your government and the Chinese government, we are moving on the same page. But I think that still we have things to improve. We have to improve. Then come to the P2P, people-to-people contact. This is basically is a public sector. And we already found that you have a lot of like the low-cost housing scheme. You have this welfare strategy. You have this other, there are a lot of new initiatives. For China, we want to make it as more a kind of displaying center in nature. For example, we are going to establish some agriculture display center, for example, in a certain university. We put all the latest agriculture technology, equipment, machinery, experts. We put them there, and the local university will join us, and they will share with them. And in the meanwhile, we will, if we have the resources, we will also send them as a gift to the for local community, but based on, for example, major crops like rice, like cotton, like wheat, and sugarcane, like this. In the poverty elevation, we may come to 3 or 4 or 6, I don't know, but in a small numbers of different provinces, a small village. We send our team over there to work with them, what the local economy could be further developed. The water, climate change in the water sector, we are going to study some dry areas, and we are going to provide free of cost this irrigation equipment, some kind of technology which I can't elaborate this in something like these things. Like the education we are enhance our scholarships in a bigger way. I think almost 20,000 scholarships for next 3 years, because we want to have more education opportunities for the youngsters in Pakistan. In the health, we are going to send these so-called rural medical teams to some areas to check the local health medical conditions. So this is the 27 projects which we are working, and some are will be started. But more importantly is that we want to make CPEC more deliverable to the individuals, to the community, to the people. But definitely, I'm expecting a lot of also complaints also. Maybe, for example, why you come to this village, not our village? Why you come to this Balochistan, but you don't come to other provinces these days? please, I also give us some more time, more space, trying to finally, the economy is yours, is Pakistan's. That China as a friend, as a partner, we can give a hand, but finally the destiny is in your own hands. And for this government, I see a kind of vision, a kind of opportunity, a kind of chance to move the Pakistan out of the current hard times. And during this process, China, along with CPEC, will be a kind of resource, a kind of assistance, a kind of partner for Pakistan. And the final purpose is a sustainable, balanced development of Pakistan's economy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, His Excellency Mr. Yao Jing. He was fully summarizing and well elaborated on the achievements, challenges, and the way forward. So I feel very comfortable with his thoughts that we are in the safe hands with the joint cooperation. Both the governments, irrespective of the government changes, is being taking place. It's very heartening, and it gives us a very good light, not at the end of the tunnel, right in the middle of the tunnel. So my next panelist, I would like to say Shazia Ghani. Dr. Shazia Ghani is Director SASSI for BRI subject. I would like to have from her thoughts.
His Excellency and my senior colleagues have covered much of the philosophical and macro side of the CPEC. As a junior, Sipahi, I have worked in trenches, so my comments will be more focused on the trenches work, which should be taken care, I believe, more. So we have achieved a lot. I remember those days back in 2013 when initial discussions about CPEC was going in. We did not initially have a template to make an application to a Chinese bank. We did not initially have a template to decide the tariff of energy project. And similarly, we did not have a template to decide how a concessional loan will be contracted. So we have, make a long way since then, and the actual implementation started in 2015. His Excellency has rightly, I'm glad he has pointed about the exact outlay of the CPEC. On a lighter note, I would advise none of us should give inflated figures. IMF all the time asks us to give disclosures on, okay, you guys are having that much amount, so please let us know where this is being deposited. On the completion side, I'm glad the initial outlay of energy projects was almost 19,000 megawatt. 5 big projects have been completed, 3 big coal projects, some alternative energy projects. On the infrastructure side, we have almost completed the Multan-Sakhar motorway and then the Havelian-Ahmedabad road project. The other projects are also, mashallah, progressing well. And then we have, implemented, and the Gwadar port is up and running. Its soft opening has been conducted back in 2016. A lot of progress has been done on that front too. On the challenges side, of course, in a big project like this, there are challenges. Again, like a junior Sipahi, I would not be concentrating on the geopolitical and economic challenges. I would be sharing my thoughts from, as I have worked in the trenches. So first important thing is that we should not miss the initial zeal and fervor of CPEC. The initial enthusiasm we were feeling back in 2013. I sometimes feel that as a nation, or probably as a policy maker, we are going through some kind of fatigue on CPEC. Let's not do that. Let's try to keep that sustainability and put that zeal again into the project, and let's complete the ongoing projects. As a student of finance, I believe that once you miss a quarter of a project, its financial cost change. Loan cost change, your recovery pattern change, and this is a big pain for the investor. Somebody who have invested $2 billion into a project and 1 quarter has been gone without any performance, it has a lot of bearing, not just for the Chinese investor, but for us as well. So it's really important to complete those projects which has already been committed and agreed. Example, I don't know I should give it or not, but let's complete the Orange Train project immediately as soon as possible. Let's complete the Kohala hydropower project as soon as possible. Geopolitical changes, I don't know, bad times may come, someone can go to some place and say that, hey, the Kohala is located in Kashmir. We will not allow to complete you this project. So it's really important to complete that. This is the biggest energy project in hydro sector in the CPEC basket, and we are not moving even on inches on this project. That's really important. His Excellency has rightly mentioned about the recovery thing. That's really important. An investor who have invested 2 billion per project in a company, and I mean, our recovery is almost 70% on book. Practically, it's almost 55%. Remaining 45% to phasa hua. Let's try to recover that. Let's try to make it easy for the investor so that they can also fulfill the commitment of completing remaining, 11,000 megawatt projects and add it to your grid. Another important challenge is the industrialization. Again, as a student of economics and finance, I believe that industrialization is the lifeline. It is the blood of CPEC. If there is no industrialization, for me, there is no CPEC. And plus, we won't be able to consolidate on the initial investments that we have put in place into energy and infrastructure projects if we do not move fastly on the industrial development. Here again, I think we as a policy maker and government should immediately come up with the policy frameworks which are missing to establish fast-track industrialization projects and CPEC economic zones. We should complete our paperwork as soon as possible. We should, announce that incentive package which is held back. Without that, nothing would be moving on. That's really important. I'm glad second FTA review is in progress. We should also think about to export something out of that white sugar, rice and basmati rice and wheat, which are out of this FTA. This is the time. Why don't we think about cultivating soya bean? China import each year 500 billion agriculture products and 90% of that is the soya bean. I don't know if I can get 1 kg soya bean in Pakistan. Interestingly, I can't even know, is it on a plant, is it on a tree, or is it on some kind of base? Yeah. So this is really important area. And then another important area and other long-term big target where we and China can, get together. It's about the aviation Silk Road. China has to establish a third Silk Road connectivity city. I wish that city could be in Pakistan. His Excellency, we too want to be like a Brussels. So, I mean, this is the long-term point of engagement. And since due to paucity of time, I'll keep myself stop here and I'll allow my other colleagues to have their share of the talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Shazia. Very simple and very interesting way she expressed. Yeah, exactly. We are proud of our young Sipahi. So now I would like to request Abid Sabri Saab, who is heading Pakistan's largest training and development organization, how he says the achievement, challenges and opportunities and what role his institution is playing.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum. I'm not very pessimist. I will not take a negative role, but I want to convey that the BRI, CPEC, very crucial, very important, and more important, more crucial, more beneficial for China. But I have never met a single person in Karachi or Lahore. I'm talking about industrialists, industry owners, who don't have any apprehensions, concerns from the CPEC. Majority of people, most of the industrialists, they have this apprehension that our industry, we are already suffering due to many reasons, and due to this CPEC, when Chinese industry is set up in Pakistan, we will be much more loser. The concerns may be right and some may be wrong. One mistake that we have done, that the stakeholders, all the stakeholders, were not consulted at right time in an appropriate way. And I think this is the time 5 years have passed. We should take that initiative. And at PIM, we have taken this initiative that we are starting sessions, awareness sessions, roundtable talks, just like this, in various cities to create more awareness. Because most of the negativity is due to lack of knowledge, lack of awareness. And we have started this. Like Ms. Shazia has mentioned, you can simply compare import and export between Pakistan and China. And around $15 billion and 1.5. There's no match. We can export much more than that. And I think the deal has been signed, and we will get the opportunity to export more things. But the conditions set are put up by the Chinese government. Some are such that Pakistani industry, they are unable to meet. We have to upgrade our industry as well, so that we bring our products to that standards. We can't blame only China. We have to upgrade our industry as well. So the concerns are, some are right and some are wrong. Sometimes we read in the newspapers, TV and other social media, the incidents. One happened in Sri Lanka, the port was taken over. Ecuador, the airport was taken over. So these create apprehension in general public that if CPEC is implemented in the long run, maybe the benefits are less, but we will suffer more. So there are concerns, and I'm thankful to the High Excellency for explaining everything, and I will request the Chinese embassy, Chinese consulates in Lahore, in Karachi, to cooperate with institutions like IPS, PIM and others, so that more of such sessions and talks are done, so that people are able to know what is happening and their concerns are addressed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Abid Sab. This is what exactly CPEC Economic Forum is doing. We are trying to become a bridge between Pakistan business community, academia, and both the government side policymakers. The engagement is the only solution. Unless we engage, we communicate, we share our thoughts, nothing could be improved. Now I would like to request my friend and our respectable Tahir Hjazi Sab, who is Vice Chancellor of Muslim Youth University, to share his valued thoughts.
Thank you, IPS, for giving me this opportunity. The speakers, especially His Excellency Yao Jing, is very comprehensive. I've heard him many times, and every time he's more and more rich in his speech as compared to his previous speeches. And I think what the message I get from him, and the message what we should get from him, is that it is not our response should be that we ask China for something. What is happening with just now, like Abid Sabri has mentioned, the apprehensions among the business community. Now, what is these apprehensions? We are in a passive mode. Pakistan is, for the last few decades, are going in a very passive mode. We used to be in active mode sometime, but now we only look at a foreign, donor. We expect he comes and he will make a hospital in our city, he will make a road in our city, he will come and drill some water wells and so on. We have been going into that mode for a long time, especially during the first decade of this century. We were so much became dependent on donors that everything was being done by donors. There were 1,700 NGOs working in Pakistan. They were doing something here and something there, and they were working on social issues, they were working in advocacies, they were working on custom, religion and everything, So we got into a passive mode. We only sit down and listen who, in Islamabad especially, donors come, seminars, here and there, they tell us what you have to do, what they are doing, and so we think, okay, this is none of our job, let these donors come and do it, Now, recently, in the last few years, many of the donors were asked to leave the country, many NGOs were closed, and now this is something for us to wake up and let's start thinking that what we have to do. Now when I see a Chinese, I remember 25 years ago, somewhere in 1992, there as a Chinese company came and installed an electronic board in a sports stadium in Islamabad. Now after some time, a Pakistani professor from Peshawar, he manufactured a similar board, smaller board for Peshawar stadium, And then there was a race that, Pakistani professor were asking the government, and I was somehow involved with that, initial meetings, that he wanted replacement of this board to be given to him because he is, indigenous technology. And Chinese company came and they, offered loan and whatever, and they won the project, Now what I see is Chinese businessmen are businessmen, We are not as good businessmen as Chinese, and they have been winning projects against Pakistanis from the government of Pakistan. And even today, we see the same thing happening, Chinese coming in with a more business-like attitude, approaches, and Pakistanis are not able to counter that, especially when you're talking about chamber people and so on. There's a, issue now, there's a big gap. For instance, I was looking into the data, the Chinese export, trade gap in favor of China is $42 billion per month, surplus, So China is in a different mode, but China was not in that mode 40 years back, We were in a much better position at that time to be able to stand up with China, which we did not do it. Now, the important thing is that we have to keep our eyes open. We should look into Chinese opportunities. I think there should be certain regulations required. I would say the Chinese government should also think very positively about it, that any project which is initiated in Pakistan must have a partnership from a local businessman. Because in that way, local businessmen will have some sort of a support in terms of industrialization. Like Saudi Arabia or UAE, when you go, they have got a kafil system. When you go in, they have a local investor to join them. If Chinese won't do it, what will happen over time? There is some sort of a situation where, like it happened in Malaysia sometimes back, So Chinese must realize that, they could have a very good industrial base here, and they could have a very good future for both the countries, but it must be accompanied by locals to stand with that. Regarding this CPEC, especially the corridor and this 2,800 kilometers of road and all that, this may look like a very sort of a new thing right now, but we don't realize one thing, that the world is changing very fast, And these roads and these connections are going to be a part of life for all of that. 200 years back, traveling from here to New York was a dream. And now you can go in the morning and come back, in the next day, So the things has changed. The same thing is changing now. The train tunnels, our vacuum tunnels are getting into practice, and roads are coming into practice, and this technology, we have to opt that. If you don't opt that, we will be left like, a jungle, basically. So we have to be working with China for that, and we must take the initiative in that. Risks are there. As General Lodhi has rightly mentioned, one of the outcome of that risk was what is happening in Pakistan, and that's what has given a setback to the Chinese also, because some of the projects, which was 103 projects initially initiated to start with. And now when the last figures of the total electricity being supplied was 7,000 megawatts, and now it's coming up to 10,500 megawatts. The impact of that itself, itself is supposed to be of jobs of about 20,000 workers, So this is, it may not come overnight, but it's going to take some time. But I think this is an opportunity for Pakistan, but we have to become a little proactive. And we should, stand with Chinese and try to understand how we can work together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And on the our last panelist, my young scholar who got very recently doctorate on Pakistan Sino Cooperation, Dr. Talat Shabbir. He is the head of the China Study Center, Institute of Strategic Studies, Islamabad. Please share your thoughts, Talat.
Assalamu alaikum. Excellency and my honorable panelists and ladies and gentlemen, the problem with the last speaker is that in such kind of forum is that most of the points have already been covered, but yet the cost of repetition and so rewording some of the things, I would just make 2 points. First is about reality check. So when we talk of achievements of CPEC, when we talk of what has been done so far, we have to actually see that in 2013, when it was conceived, we had promises, we had plans, we had dreams about CPEC, and when it began to execute in 2014 or early 2015. So I just want to make one point, that since I come from a research institute, that when we talk of promises, there's a long list of promises or expectation that we have from CPEC. When we see 4 or 5 years down the line, we see the progress, it is still a long list. But when we see in terms of future of CPEC, we have a longest list of what we Pakistanis specifically are expected to do. And that is the longest list, as my honorable panelist said. We have to wake up and do certain things so that we can make it a success. So progress, when Excellency says that we have out of 22 projects, we have completed 11 projects, that means then progress is 50% of early harvest projects. Or when we say promised electricity was to be 17,000 megawatt, and if it is 7,000 megawatt or 10,000 megawatt, that means it is a little plus than 50%. So I think we need to do a lot more to make it a success and be very timely on the project. Second important thing that I want to, since I agree with the panelists that there's a perception about CPEC, there's a perception about various things regarding BRI. So I think 20% of some reality actually stirs discussion or gives a platform to create that perception. So I think those things, those 20% realities must be addressed so that that larger perception does not arise. With regard to narrative building and perception management, I think I normally say on various forums that China says BRI is a win-win cooperation. It's a treasure that China wishes to share with the world. It's shared destiny, that the Excellency said. So the detractors are those people who want to undermine this concept or this very idea. What they are propagating, no, this is the influence that China wants to expand in the world. So I think branding BRI at first place, because CPEC is an offshoot of the BRI, branding CPEC is BRI is very important. So if still people think that it's a strategic influence expansion, so I think there is something seriously required to be done with the branding of BRI narrative. Coming to the CPEC, like there are various detractors of CPEC also who say CPEC is a cultural invasion, CPEC is debt trap, and blah blah. So I think we need to be seriously thinking about this perception management on CPEC. We need to seriously do something about creating Pakistan's narrative or China's narrative on CPEC, because it's very important, because when we go along, so we know that these perceptions and negative narrative building also creates a lot of problems. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Talat. Now is question answer session time, and if you allow me, I can start with the first question of the session with His Excellency Mr. Yao Jing. A little personal question. Well, yesterday I was flying from Karachi airport for Islamabad, on a bookstall I saw, very famous, everybody knows, Urdu Digest. The cover was highlighting your portrait, and it says, "I'm in love or attachment with Pakistan since 1991." Would you like to explain how?
I love affair in Pakistan. Know that I got an interview with this magazine,
Yes.
I think from Lahore. It was asking me my personal, in fact, experience. Why 1991? Because I graduated from university in 1991. I spent 4 years in Peking University. My major was English literature. I know nothing, but at that time, it's difficult to get a job, so I joined the foreign service. So I joined foreign, and the first assignment or the desk in China foreign service, we have different departments. The first I was assigned the Pakistan desk. So since 1991, from the very beginning, first day, I was associated with our bilateral relations. So my first foreign posting also was in Islamabad. After 3 years, after 3 years in our headquarters, I had the first foreign posting. First time I had the experience of taking a flight. That was PIA. And I came to Islamabad on the 24th of April, 1994. I spent my first 5 years abroad since from 1994 to 1999. When I went back after this signing, I went back to the Pakistan desk. Since 1999 till 2006, I was working with Pakistan desk for another 6 years. Only between the 2006 and 2000, only 1 year I was away. I was posted to New York in a mission to the UN. But in 2007, I came back to Islamabad as the deputy chief of the mission and spent another 3 years here. And after 2010, when I went back from Islamabad, then I was a little far away. I was looking after Latin America affairs in our headquarters. Then I came again 2017. But before coming here 2017, I spent 2 years in Delhi as the deputy chief over there, our embassy in India. Then I went to Kabul for 2 more years as ambassador over there. My posting in India and my posting in Kabul, I could not say it's nothing to do with Pakistan. Pakistan is always a part of my work. So right now is my full job now. So that is why my affair started in 1991. It is the whole association almost of my diplomatic career. After this posting, I may go to retire or something, then that's okay. So that is my lifelong. But I take this opportunity because several panelists mentioned several questions. I want also, if allowed, that a little. For example, that Mr. Abid, you mentioned that there's concerns by the industries like this. I think it is true. But please, I think a little misunderstanding about BRI or the CPEC. For example, that there are, I still remember when I was young, I was from a very small town in southern part of China. Our major industry in the local town, they are the garment. They do a little garment processing, and we had very backward small machines. In 1984, when I was in the middle school, that the first investor came from Japan. It's not a joint venture. They established there. So all the Chinese, in fact, our garments were laid off, including my mother. She lost the job. She had to apply for new work in the Japanese factory because they bring this. And later on, that when these Japanese factories becoming quite prosperous, and some Chinese developers, they copied the Japanese model. They purchased Japanese technology, and finally, then the Japanese investors maybe shifted or left, and the whole level of the industry, garment processing was enhanced. This is the way for China to increase our levels. Definitely, if the Chinese industrialists, they came, and definitely they will raise some concern, apprehensions for local. But what is the key of this? That is your government's sector policy. What kind of industries should be allowed to invest? For example, textile. What is the priority? You cannot invite all the investment, whatever comes. It's best combined with a certain limitation, like high technology, high value added, high this. Here, a little, frankly speaking, is that these sectorial policies, we don't see very, very clear. As long as foreign investment, then you welcome everything could be. Second, you have a quite strong, I should say, traditional interest group of industries. I checked some of your factories, like textile or agricultural food processing. Frankly speaking, the efficiency is almost 30 years ago. But they are making benefit. They definitely will refuse or trying to reject the new technology, new efficiencies. So finally, that what the Chinese government did to improve this, that we have a very clear sector policies. For example, textile, steel, we only allow this kind of investment, and we only allow this. But for this, who could not sustain their manufacturings, then we give incentives. You give incentives. We are not allow them to prolong their lives, but we give them more incentives. For example, shift to the western side. For example, that give them more incentives or loans to upgrade their capability. But this is also because we cannot give all this kind of industrial gap or upgradation to this kind of task to the CPEC, to the BRI. CPEC is just a part of some projects. It's not a really national project for Pakistan. You cannot, for example, the trade gap, imbalance. If you want to use the CPEC to balance your trade, no. The CPEC, the maximum it can do is enhance your export capability, a little give you manufacturing capacity. This is still a policy issue. China, every year, we buy about $2 trillion from all over the world. Why only $2 billion of Pakistani commodity in it? That is that because this is the choice all over the world. It's nothing that because of the G2G, basically it's B2B. So I think, sir, you are very right that we would like to cooperate with you, that at the policy level, we work or formulate a good policy for your different sectors. But in this side, it's nothing to do with CPEC. Here is that. So I think that we need more kind of this kind of policy level connection. That is, we can help you to develop a kind of strategy for the textile, agriculture, and this kind of this. There's another concern is about the local partners, joint ventures. But this why right now we are advocating for joint. I give you an example. Late last year, there was a garment factory from Shanghai. They established a factory around some places in Lahore. They have a local partner, and these days they say they don't want this. What's the local partner doing? Well, the local partner, because you have your very strict level by level, that's assistant director, actually 7 or 6. When you ask for a kind of permission or kind of that, then you have to get the agree or that approval, whatever, the 7 levels. But the factories, that efficiency very prominent, so they cannot get used to that. So they say that, okay, then we will run the factory by ourselves. But what is the local partner mostly important? I think that is the connection with the local market, connection with the local partners. So that is, I think, the right. But I think this is the same thing. We have the same pains. We have the same kind of process when China started this, we call it industrial upgradation. But Pakistan, I think that it is, in some areas, you are very advanced. Even Chinese, they come here to learn and to benefit. In other areas, sometimes that you really need some kind of tough, very tough measures or policies that are trying to initiate a new stage of at least technological or industrial upgradation. So this is my little understanding about that. Thank you.
Thank you, His Excellency. So we are quite a bit behind the schedule, but still I would like to take a few questions. Try to be brief, and we expect a brief answer from our panelists. Yes. Yeah, Mike, please.
Give one example. The ambassador took my name, so I should tell him about a success story of the Chinese coming here and setting up a power plant. The Chashma nuclear power plant we purchased it from China, they agreed to sell it to us. But when the first plant was completed, all the Chinese went back, and it is being operated by Pakistanis. And these are the best operating power plants in the country. They are all operating at 84% capacity and above their design capacity. So that speaks of two things. One, the good design and good work done by the Chinese. And two, after they have left, we are operating them to the optimum capacity, at the optimum capacity. We could be careless. We could have said, sorry, we cannot operate it, please, Chinese, please come up and help us. That would have reduced the investment of Pakistanis, or we could not have operated it that well, but we operated it. So when we operate this plant, which has been built by the Chinese, it is for the good of Pakistan and it's good of China. And I have to go somewhere, so I'm sorry I had to say that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's very true. Pakistan and China too are very resilient nations. We have our own strengths, and of course, own set of weaknesses. JF Thunder is another example which we are building jointly. And next question, please. Sure. Yeah, please. Yes, gentlemen.
Well, it was a really nice discussion. I've been traveling across the world, and I had discussion with the science and technology parks and industry people and academicians on the other side. So, as Dr. Talat, he has mentioned that there is concern all over the world that the Chinese, they are taking over the market already in the European countries, in Africa, in Latin America. So with this BRI, that will be more influence of China. So there is a perception that China is taking over the market. And as you have mentioned that China is also helping the other countries. So what initiative is China taking to for the sustained development of the host countries in which the projects are being built? The other thing is, as this is a mega project, BRI, 4.5 billion population is being affected by this project. So the thing is, like, there is a lot of discussion all over the world on the climate change. So what impact it will have on the climate and how China is going to manage that?
I would like to take one more question, then we can request a joint answer. Yes, young lady. And as the last questioner said, 4.5 billion, not affected, benefited. Yes, please.
Good evening, sir. My name is Fazila Saeed and I'm working on IT and technology for a Chinese company. I'm a company secretary for them in Pakistan and I can speak Chinese also. So my question is, we are attached with a project in Gwadar, which is going on a long delay from last 1.5 years. And the company who is building the infrastructure is CISC, is well known. And what happened is, like, 3 times we got the allocation of the land and everything, and they told us we can start this project. And then this year, they told us that they are going to negotiate. Actually, the negotiation is from the CISC or the China government. So my question is, how long will it take us to, keep preparing us for the project, and then at the end of the day, at the end of the year, we have nothing to present to our bosses, and then my boss is asking what you are doing in Pakistan, And it is like a lot of investment. If I tell you just a small investment of my company, we are getting the money from China and bringing it to Pakistan in dollars and just giving the salaries to the employees, which is like, as you have mentioned, it's very difficult. And for me, as a company secretary, it is like a lot of pressure to bear from China. So I want to know, will it be starting this year or not? So we have to prepare for more money to bring it to Pakistan.
Thank you, young lady. We got your question, quite customized question and specific question. Dr. Adnan?
Thank you very much, sir. I'm Adnan Sarwar Khan from Namal, Islamabad, and I teach there international relations and Asian conflict studies. Excellency, it was a wonderful talk. I get a little disturbed when I see in my country two kinds of people, one who do not want to understand properly, that do not understand CPEC empirically, and the other ones who have to necessarily oppose it. There is another story. I am, as a teacher, a little worried about the youth, that why they are carried away by all sorts of pessimism, despite the fact that our Chinese brothers and friends are making it realize time and again. And your statement, your core statement today, that return, you see, maybe from 2025, or even if there is also not a suitable period, only when Pakistan gets economic stability. I mean, which country in the world would have this kind of sentiment for Pakistan? It's going to be only China. So we must be very proud of this great friend. But over pessimism, I don't know why we have become so skeptical a nation. But anyway, so the question now that I want to put is a little sensitive. So even if you give a diplomatic answer, I'll be very glad. But and since I'm a teacher, I have to ask it, and I would not be at least shying away from this, even if it is noted down. Well, when you see, or when I see, the utterances like that of Mr. Abdul Razak Dawood, our advisor to the Prime Minister on Finance, that it may be frozen for 1 year. And when after that our very wise, I would say, Chief of the Army Staff went to meet the Chinese President to reassure him, and then afterwards the Prime Minister. So in that case, do you think really, sir, that with this kind of a zigzag a kind of a policy presently by the current government, though I myself was a voter of the current government, but since I am an analyst also, well, are you now accustomed to this kind of a situation, political instability and of Pakistan being a very resilient nation, much more resilient than the Pakistanis are supposed to be? So one thing. And second, sir, is your mainstay, and this is my real part of my question, the mainstay or main faith of the People's Republic of China and CPEC regarding Pakistan is the support of the Pakistan Army, that they have reassured the Chinese government that whatever political flip-flop is there, sometimes unfortunately, the Pakistan Army is going to be the backbone and be always the supporter of CPEC, and let's hope that their political leadership also goes along with it. So, sir, is it true that you can have reassurance in the shape of the armed forces of Pakistan on CPEC?
Thank you. All kinds of perceptions are naturally going on. As I say, it's a national project. So I would like to have Mr. Lodhi's views about the last question before I bother anybody else.
You know, it is traditional that Pakistani nation expects too much from Pakistan Army. And whereas this is true that Pakistan Army has given this assurance that for the protection of CPEC is concerned, physical protection. That will be ensured by the armed forces of Pakistan. And even when China wanted to help us, we said, thank you very much, we can do it ourselves. Although they wanted to help us also. So Pakistan Army showed its confidence that as far as physical assaults are concerned, they will try their best. Although at times there are failures. You know that the Chinese were attacked in Karachi. You also know that last day there was an attack on Gwadar Road. That will keep on happening because, as I told, there are certain enemies and certain detractors who just want us to finish it. And what Dr. Saab was saying, that even this negativity which is going on, some of it is a fact, as our brother said, but some of it is being created. So that, whatever happened in Sri Lanka, whatever happened in Ethiopia, we should go into more details that what has actually happened and what is being said. So I don't think that for such a big economic project, Pakistan Army can give guarantees of the type which Dr. Saab was saying. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lodhi Saab. And I would like to ask Shazia if you can answer the young lady's question.
Thank you so much for posing this question. Can you please name the project, specific project? 300 megawatts. So this is the story I have worked. Yeah. Very valid question, sir. Gwadar, the strategic port city, the strategic city of the CPEC, it does not have an indigenous power plant. We are importing from Iran. Ideally, this should be the plant है ही नहीं है तो connect क्या करेंगे? ठीक है ना अभी? Yeah. So the idea was that to build that 300 megawatt coal power plant in Gwadar back in 2015, so that when port would be operational, when the export processing zone would be functional, the electricity would be made available. Unfortunately, they required, I think, 2700 acres of land, 2700-2800 acre land है, और ये उस land का title clear नहीं है. I do not see any problem to get its title cleared by the local DC if we want to do that. It's a government land, there should be no problem on that. Plus another misfortune happened with this particular project, that this got the lowest tariff rate in the whole line of CPEC projects. The other got booked at 8 cents, this got booked at 6 cents. And I don't know where the sanity goes. This must be offered a much better rate of return, being located at a most, God-forsaken area, or so that investor may have some incentive to complete it early. So I feel really unfortunate. I am sorry for that this is not taking place, but the government of Pakistan, especially the Ministry of Energy, and then the PPIB, the private power board for the investors, they should take the step. Acquiring 200 acres of land, this must not be a big problem, I personally believe. But this project needs this attention from the government immediately. This should be taken on priority basis. I know that they have offloaded their engineers. I know they have stopped work for a couple of months. It's very difficult. I share your sentiment. I'm sorry. I wish I could do that. But this is really important project.
Yeah. Shazia, a little as well. Last year I visited Quetta. I met that interim CM there. He said, I have given approval the prolonged power plant, but still land issue is in the pipeline. Hopefully, we will manage it. Yeah, that's the natural curve. That's the natural learning curve for us as well. We should not take it very pessimistically. Let's hope for the best. And it is we which have to do. And the last question asked by the young man, I would like you to answer. China is overtaking the markets, and what kind of perception is being built in the West, especially how you are handling that?
Market. Yes, I think a market, in fact, in economic activities, we take market as the real ruling element. The movement of the resources, movement of capital, movement of labor, movement of the products. In China, we firmly believe this is decided by the market. So in fact, you say that if you look at China's past 40 years, we only did one thing, that build the market, both within and without. Although China is a socialist country, but if I will look at our economy, we call it a market-driven economy. So this market is the very fundamental rules for China, for Chinese government, for Chinese companies, for Chinese business people. When they're out of, they only have one thing, that is the market. By market, we mean two aspects of the market. One is that Chinese domestic market. Second, of course, the external market. When it comes to, I should say right now, this Belt and Road Initiative, why, for example, basically that we have a relatively mature market, Chinese market. We don't need more protection. We don't need more this kind of substitution, something like that. So that China's market is mature enough to share with the other countries. So that is why we start this Belt and Road Initiative, because we do, for example, we have competitive products now. We can even go to the American markets. And also we have the bigger consumption market now. We can consume and import a lot of from other markets. So when this BRI initiative starts, we are going to foster, build, and have a more prosperous markets, both within China and out of China. For Pakistan, I think this market, I told your government, Mr. Imran Khan, your market is not mature yet. First, it's not a single market. If this investor, I have money, I go to Lahore and I go to Sindh, totally different policies and a different environment. If I go to Quetta or Peshawar, another set of. So the single market system hasn't been developed or built yet in a good way. Second, that is the federal and the provincial coordination. This is another actually difficulty in your single market. When we go to the federal, you have these incentives. But if you go to local, provincial or other levels, then you have to pay other costs that to increase this. And thirdly, your product and industry. Your industry, as I said, you still have a traditional interest group who are controlling the less, some kind of, I should say. But this is purely, I think, from the Marxist point of view. For Chinese, by this CPEC or Belt and Road Initiative, we are not going to give this kind of revolutionary change, because this is your own job. CPEC and BRI, we are going to use them several. First, increasing your infrastructure level to lower cost of your manufacturing. For example, we have these power plants. They are generating at lower cost electricity. But when we generating this electricity, we found no, the transmission is costly. Then when we found the transmission, should we also build the transmission lines? Then we found, oh, the distribution is more costly. Even there's no distribution. Everybody can use electricity by themselves. So this is a kind of overall sectorial policy needed. That is your government to pay. That, for example, when you are thinking about establishing these power plants, you must take into consideration emission distribution. So our infrastructure, basically our intention is to decrease your cost for manufacturing, like the motorway or this transportation. Second is empower your manufacturing capacity, because that we think if you need and you can have a more efficient and higher technological equipment and technology. And thirdly is share our market with you. That is why we need this FTA second stage, and we are sharing more than 90%. We're only asking for 60% from your market. So this is almost one side. So this is the way for us to build your market. And regarding the climate change and this, and also I think exactly agree with the financialist. Pakistan, as far as CPEC, we are two. One is too over enthusiasm about CPEC. CPEC is a part of your national building strategy. Second is over expectation from CPEC. You cannot put all the expectation on this basket. Yeah, because China could not really. For instance, you have 200 million people. That is a huge task mission. Climate change, yes, we do. We are working with your climate ministry for so-called recharging Pakistan. We want to do something fundamental like how to deal with your underground water shortage, something. This is second is that like there is basically hydropower stations, because your government is encouraging Kohala and this project. So we are encouraging. We have less coal-based this. Thirdly is that we call the training and also awareness creation, issues, this kind of movements or whatever. Climate change, in fact, we are facing the same problem. For this, it's basically mutual. We benefit from each other. This other question regarding this government, Mr. Dawood, Army Chief, Prime Minister. No, sir, I think I'm totally different. I look at it in a different perspective. I just share with you. A new government, they came to power. Naturally, they have their own experience. They have their own understanding. They have their own assessment of any and each certain issues. CPEC is among them. So naturally, they have their hesitation. They have their concerns. They have their own understandings. I think this is very, very natural. And I really appreciate that it make kind of this kind of comments or whatever. But if you look at is the outcome. Yeah, right now, I think the whole government of Pakistan, I think they are whole embracing. But otherwise, for me, I think we don't care about these comments. For me or for our Chinese side, first principle is we do a good project. This good project. Second, we build our true trust. That if China and Pakistan, they are so skeptical against each other, then this trust deficiency will develop into a very big perception gap. So if you don't believe in China, you don't believe in any other, I don't name them, other countries, then where's Pakistan? Yeah, because this is a globalized. But this project we can improve. So when you say that there are some comments from the dignitaries or from the government, I think they are natural. And they share this with us, and we say what is the reality, what is the fact, and how can we improve. Regarding the army, Lodhi has left. Lodhi has left. I think that your army naturally is a part of your nation. So for all these projects, I believe, including CPEC and other joint ventures, I believe your army has a responsibility in the dance. So please, like the army chief, in last September, he visited China. It's not a reassurance. It's just a very, very coincidence visit. We arranged this visit at the June of 2018, before the election. But very, very coincidentally is that this visiting date was overlapping with the Prime Minister's visit to Turkey. No, Saudi. I visit that. So we say that, okay then, because what to do, because from our side, this is a preset and already arranged. And our president usually don't meet military leaders from other countries. Only one or two exceptions, Pakistan is one of them. So we say that it's better to also. So in fact, it's nothing to go there to reassure us. We don't need a kind of reassurance. They are talking about routine and the normal military-to-military cooperation. But only the timing creates a kind of this misperception about that. But generally, I appreciate your army established a special division for the CPEC projects, and I think this is a very strong support for this, and we appreciate it. But with the passage of time, I think with the security, the improvement of your security situation, our security model or this kind of protection model should be also improved or be, I think, further getting further shape. This the water power plant, right? You come from China Harbor? I don't know. Oh, I see. It's a little frustrating project. I went to Quetta for 3 times, talked with the previous government's chief minister, caretaker chief minister, and the current chief minister. And finally, the current chief minister agreed to go ahead with the land. After getting the land, then we need a NOC on environment. After the environment, we need a kind of tariff. After the tariff, we need to connecting with the national grid permission. After that, we have to work out the transmission plan. Frankly speaking, there's no window, one window dealing with this kind of things. So this project from 1 year to, but I promise you that they will be start before June, this project. In Gwadar, only 2 things are most important, water and power. We are also applying for another piece of land for 5,000 capacity freshwater plant. We are stuck now. Maybe take another 4 years to get something. But I think things are improving. Why? They're moving now. And this is natural that after election, after the new government coming into power, there's a transition period. And naturally, we have to adjust this kind of pace, this kind of procedures according to the local. And second, that the efficiency of the current government is also improving. This is also, we are moving much more quickly than I think previous time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, His Excellency. Such a thoughtful sharing of the thoughts. I would love to continue this session, but time is pressing us hard. And I would say what Mr. Yao Jing was concluding, that we are passing the same learning curve when Mr. Deng Xiaoping, he was transiting from Mr. Mao Zedong's era. So that's natural. These fans are natural. We have some issues, you have some issues, we have some common issues that need to be resolved with optimistic, positive, and energetic approach. That's the only way forward as I see. Now I would like to request Mirza Hamid Hussain, the chair of the session, to give his concluding remarks. And I excuse young lady, we have time constraints. Yeah, in the tea session, surely you will be given chance. Yes, Mr. Mirza Hamid Hussain.
Excellency, Yao Jing, another participant, fellow panelists. We are indeed very grateful to you for giving a very comprehensive picture about CPEC's achievements, the challenges that you met and the challenges that are lying ahead, and the way forward that lies, the change that will come in the next phases of CPEC, like moving from G to G to B to B cooperation and then to people cooperation. You were very right in making the remarks about a lot of expectations, over expectations of the people from CPEC. But there are reasons for that. First of all,
can I take 1 minute? For the cameramans, I would like to request there is a cake cutting ceremony going to be held immediately after his concluding remarks. So don't fold.
So there are some reasons for that. First of all, the government initially launched the CPEC program here. They gave a lot of importance to it, and they gave the nation to understand that this is something that will change the fate of Pakistan. And this is a game changer. They gave the term game changer. So that created a lot of hope in the people, because they had been sort of expecting something big to happen to our country for a long time. They didn't get it. Therefore, they had a lot of expectations. And secondly, we have become sort of impatient with inactivity. For a long time, there was no relief for the people. So now they expected early relief. For instance, early relief from load shedding, early relief from many other things. Now, obviously, projects of this kind are not so speedy. They're not so easy to do. They take time to mature and to deliver results and fruits. and the people are impatient. That's why there are a lot of expectations which are not met. And in that climate, the skepticism flourishes, because there are other players in the field who saw skepticism in the minds of the people about the benefits, about the utility of CPEC and its projects. And therefore, the people somehow get dismayed at times that it's not giving them benefits, it's not producing results. But we are sure your talk and the talk of others, panelists, has been very encouraging. Things are moving, things are progressing, results are being achieved, and very soon there will be visible economic benefits which will be available to the people at large, because that is the ultimate objective of CPEC, to raise the standard of living of people, to raise our national, gross national product, and to raise our capacity. If I may make a couple of suggestions there. Over time, we had a lot of capacity in almost every sector some time back, but now our capacity has eroded very badly. Now, I wonder if in CPEC scheme of things, there is a capacity building component for Pakistanis which is badly needed. And secondly, is there a transfer of technology component? Because while you would be doing projects here and bringing in a lot of technology, but if it is just done by your engineers and your technicians and your professionals and then they go away, the benefits that we will gain from those things would not be as much if it is also accompanied by some transfer of technology to our own people. So these are the two things that we expect from our friends and brothers in China, that they would include as part of their CPEC projects. And with these few remarks, because we have run out of time, I would like to thank all of you on behalf of the Institute of Policy Studies, and particularly I would like to thank His Excellency the Ambassador and his second in command, and all the participants here and all the panelists, and particularly Mr. Arshad Qaim Khani for making it happen. This seminar, it could not take place without his help and without his initiative. So thank you, all of you.
Thank you very much, Mirza Hamid Hasan, sir, very well concluded. Now we would have a brief shield distribution ceremony for the panelists, and then we are going to cut the CPEC's 4th anniversary cake by His Excellency, Mr. Yao Jing. Please. Yes. Yes. So first is Mr. Tahir Hjazi. Dr. Talat Shabbir. Thank you. So, next, Mr. Abid Sabri. Ambassador Tajammul Altaf. And young Sipahi Shazia Ghani. Dr. Shazia Ghani. So now this is from my side, being a chief host to the chief guest. And one gift box from Mr. Hamid to ambassadors. Now there is a group photo and then there will be a cake cutting ceremony.